So our next recipe is kind of this in the dessert category. We're making a cantaloupe ginger granita. This is something that's really great, especially even for the summertime because it is cold. And like I mentioned, those cold or room temperature foods would be better to help manage any type of nausea. And we are using some of the flavors that also can help control it more. And since it is when it's melted, more of a liquid, again, you're helping with hydrating yourself throughout the day.
Okay, this is exciting. This is very tasty stuff. So the first thing actually we're gonna start off with, before we get into the granita, is we're gonna make a ginger syrup. Now we can absolutely just add ginger to the dish, no problem, but this is actually a nice sort of condiment or extra item to have on hand.
Yeah,
right?
for sure. And also, so the ginger is really known for helping manage those nausea symptoms. So, you know, and in addition, it is one of those phytonutrients, has lots of antioxidant properties that, you know, you would want to incorporate. And so this syrup that we're making can be something that you add to teas. You can add it to, like, on top of other things, I guess.
Absolutely.
Like you could even pair it with your scone if you wanted a savory,
for sure.
Sweet mix. So yeah.
And it's a great way to extract a lot of those flavors. It's also another way to kind of preserve it as well, because under the honey, you can kind of keep it in the fridge for a longer amount of time. So what we're doing is we have a little bit of water in a pot. I'm going to add a ton of ginger. This is just sliced ginger. I peeled it. You don't have to peel it if you wash it really well, but I find that the skin particles sometimes makes the syrup cloudy. So I kind of like to peel it. And then we're going to add all of it in. And we're going to cover it. Not cover it. That sounds like a lot. So we're going to add a few tablespoons of honey. It is a syrup. We're not eating all this honey all at once. And we obviously recommend, you know, to reduce the amount of added sugar. But this is something, again, you can use and you're in control of. So you can add as you need.
And you do want to make sure, especially for those who are immune compromised, that you're purchasing pasteurized honey.
Okay, so honey, water, ginger, pretty simple. That's going to go onto your stovetop. Again, bring it up to a boil, and then once you start to see bubbles, reduce the heat to a simmer, and you're just going to let that go. Let that reduce. We want to try to get most of that water out of it. The reason that we add water to begin with is so that it gives it enough time to slowly cook and sort of pull some of the ginger flavors out. And about 20 minutes, 25 minutes, it should reduce to the consistency of honey again. And then you can store it, or if you like it a little bit thinner, then reduce it so that it's not as thick as honey, that it's more runny fluid. And then you jar it, refrigerate it. I don't strain the ginger pieces out because they're really delicious, they're tasty. So I just jar it. I used most of it. You can see I only have a little bit left. But this has intense ginger flavor. So like Stephanie mentioned, adding a little bit of this to like your tea or like a smoothie would add a big punch, a little bit of sweetness, but a big punch of ginger flavor. The heat from the ginger is not as strong as it would be if it's fresh. When ginger's fresh, that is when it's strongest in terms of heat. As it starts to cook down, you lose a little bit of that heat as well. But I think the ginger properties are still pretty active, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is great. Okay, so we have our ginger syrup ready to go. We're gonna make our granita. Granita, again, another Italian word. Think of it as like an Italian snow cone. Very refreshing, very tasty, and pretty simple to make. So we're using cantaloupe. Seeing a lot of melons are in season right now. Cantaloupe, watermelon. you can use whatever you want. You can even use frozen fruit in this.
Yeah,
Would
cherries.
work really well. Cherries,
Mango.
blueberries.
Yeah, so you could choose whatever you want. And like I mentioned, like obviously it will be a frozen dish, but when it melts, it turns more into liquid. So just in general, when you are eating, you want to make sure that you're relaxed, you're sitting upright, that you're not necessarily wearing any like tight clothing, because that can make nausea worse.
Okay, so cantaloupe is in. We're gonna add some lemon to this as well. Because we're freezing it, that freezing process is going to mute the flavors a little bit. That's just what the freezing does, especially on your taste buds. So a little bit of acidity from either lemon or lime or even orange actually helps to pick those flavors back up and makes them really nice and bright again. So the cantaloupe will taste more like cantaloupe, even though I add lemon, which will make it also taste like lemon, but you get it. So we're gonna add the juice of about 1 lemon to this full blender amount of cantaloupe. And I'm gonna add some of the ginger syrup as well, and even some of those pieces of ginger I'm gonna throw in there if you save them.
And it has been recommended to kind of suck on any type of candy, like a peppermint or a lemon drop, ginger, to help with those symptoms. But so even kind of having the pieces in there will help enhance that flavor and the properties of the ginger that helps to control the nausea.
Do you mind plugging this in?
Yes.
Now, if the fruit that you're using is super ripe, you probably don't need any additional water. It'll probably just blend down pretty easily. The cantaloupe, it's good. Probably use another day. So I'm just gonna add a little bit of water to help it get started, and then adjust as I need. But we want it pretty thin. I don't want it as thick as a smoothie. I want it almost like a thin milkshake. All right.
So you don't need to add ice, right?
Don't need to add ice. We're turning it into ice.
Right.
Yeah. So it should be pretty thin. Because cantaloupe, things like cantaloupe and like watermelon, they don't really have any like strong fibers. You don't have to strain it. You could just put it right into your dish. You want it to be pretty thin. So have a big baking dish. And you can see it's about 1 inch or so. The more volume, like the thicker the volume, the higher the amount of liquid, it's just gonna take longer to set and freeze. So the bigger the baking dish, the thinner it is, the faster it will set. And that's it. Stick that in the freezer. After about an hour, you wanna scrape it with a fork, and then put it back in. And after about 2 hours, scrape it again with a fork, and then put it back in. And then right before you serve it, you can scrape it one last time with a fork. You're essentially making snow, cantaloupe snow. So I've been doing this all morning, but that's what it looks like after. And once you get it to this stage, where it's like snow, like this, almost like a slush, it will stay like this. It won't freeze solid. So you can actually just wrap it up with saran wrap and just keep it in the freezer until you finish it. And that's it. Yeah. It's really refreshing, super refreshing as is.
Yeah, and again, like that, one of those things that's easy to eat kind of throughout the day, and you see how you can separate those solid foods and the liquid ones.
Yeah, and that's
it.
Wow.